Let's talk about a musician with millions of fans, millions of streams. On the surface, he's a huge star. But the sources we're looking at today make a pretty shocking claim that his music isn't just entertainment. They argue it's a weapon. And there it is, right out of the gate, a direct and, let's be honest, an incredibly serious accusation. So we're not just talking about some controversial or edgy lyrics here. The claim is that the music itself is a tool for a group that's been designated a terrorist organization. Let's unpack that. So at the very center of all of this, you have the artist El Macabelico. To his fans, he's giving a voice to their world. But to his accusers, he's the voice of something far more sinister. Let's be really clear about what the charge is. The source material isn't just saying his art reflects a violent world. No, it's arguing that his art is actively promoting the worldview of a specific violent group. To really get a grip on this, we've got to, open up the case file. So who are the key players in this story? Let's lay out the subjects before we dive into the evidence. All right, let's get into the case file itself and lay out the facts as they're presented in the source material. Think of this as the formal indictment. First up, we have the artist himself, El Macabelico. He's the one creating the music that's at the heart of this whole controversy. And then you've got the other major player, the organization he's accused of promoting, the Cartel del Noreste, or CDN for short. Now, this right here is absolutely crucial. The source material doesn't just call the CDN a cartel. It uses the specific label terrorist group. And that one phrase changes everything. It reframes the entire accusation, taking it from a musician glorifying crime to an artist creating actual propaganda for a terrorist entity. The stakes get a whole lot higher. Okay, so the charge is on the table, and we know who the players are. Now it's time to get to the primary piece of evidence in this whole case, the music itself. So, what does this supposed propaganda actually sound like? We're going to zero in on one track in particular, a song called El Patas V1. The lyrics in this song really form the backbone of the entire propaganda accusation. Right out of the gate, the song hits you with this, it's an incredibly chilling line, and it's delivered with this calm, unnerving confidence. Let's break down what it's really getting at. You see, what's going on here isn't just a simple threat. It's really a statement of purpose. The narrator is saying his job, his identity, is to be the living embodiment of fear. Power isn't about money. It's about the ability to terrify someone who thinks they're fearless. It's about pure, absolute dominance. And the song just keeps building this character, this persona. This next line gives us a peek inside the narrator's head, an admission of the kind of life he leads. And wow, this line, it just perfectly captures this deep sense of fatalism, right? There's this calm understanding that this lifestyle means there's literally a price on your head. But you don't hear any regret. Instead, it's acceptance, almost a sense of pride in living it hard. This isn't a tragedy to him. It's the reality he's chosen. Okay, now we're getting to what might be the single most powerful metaphor in the entire song. This is the line that defines the entire universe that the narrator lives in. I mean, what an image, right? The world isn't complicated. There are no shades of gray, no good versus evil. There is only red, the color of blood, the color of violence. This lyric paints a world where violence isn't just an event that happens sometimes. No, it's the atmosphere. It's the only truth that exists. Okay, so we've listened to the song, we've broken down the lyrics. Now let's connect all of these artistic themes directly back to that very stark accusation we started with, propaganda. But first, we've got to be on the same page about how propaganda really works. It's not always a poster saying, do this. A lot of the time, the most effective propaganda works by making a dangerous worldview feel normal, inevitable, and maybe even a little glamorous. And this is where it all clicks into place. Look at this. On the left, you have the strategic goals of a group like the CDN. On the right, you have the lyrical themes we just pulled directly from a Macabelico song. The sources we're looking at argue this is absolutely not a coincidence. The cartel's goal to project fear is perfectly mirrored in the lyric about introducing fear. Their need to normalize violence is right there in lines like, "He who wanted to meet my violent side is no longer alive." Fostering fatalism to keep people loyal, that's echoed in accepting a price on your head. And creating an all-encompassing identity, well, that's life is red. The parallel is direct, and according to the sources, it's intentional. So, after all that, where do we land?
We've looked at the charge, we've gone through the evidence presented. Let's think about the final takeaway. We started with this really heavy accusation from the source material, and then we dove right into the story the art itself is telling. The core argument here is that this music does more than just entertain. It functions to build an entire world for the listener. It's a world where extreme violence isn't seen as a breakdown of society, but as the very foundation of it. It's a reality where being the most feared person in the room is the ultimate source of power and meaning. And that really brings us to the core question of this whole explainer. When a piece of art stops just reflecting a reality and starts building a narrative that aligns perfectly with the strategic goals of a violent organization, where do you draw the line? At what point does an artist become an asset? That's the question this case leaves us with.